Hi, this is Larry Kent, founder of OnTrack.com. I'd like to share with you the method that I use to start a spiritual conversation. If you're like me, it's not too hard to talk about the weather or sports or some other general topic, but when you want to move into a spiritual conversation, it's always a challenge. Well, I've come up with 6 questions that I use to take the spiritual temperature of the person that I'm talking with, to find out if God might be moving or preparing their heart to hear the gospel. And I'd like to share those questions with you. The first question I ask is, may I ask you a personal question? You know, I'd found out in the past when I was talking with people about spiritual things that sometimes when I bring that up, boy, they just put a straight arm out and say, that's personal. And that was the end of the conversation as far as they were concerned. And so I decided the best way to address that is just right off the bat, ask them, may I ask you a personal question? You know, I've been doing that for years now, and no one has ever said no to that question. Now, sometimes they'll qualify it by saying yes, but I may not answer, and that's valid. But I've never found anybody that wouldn't let me ask that next question. In fact, in restaurants, I've had waiters actually sit down at the table next to me or bend down on their knees so we're at eye level when I ask them if I can ask them a personal question. It's something that's intrinsic, I think, within people that they're excited that somebody wants to know something personal about them. So use that as your first transition question. The next question you're going to ask is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how interested are you in spiritual things? Now, they can answer anything they want to. They can answer 1, they can answer 10. I've even had people answer 15 before. But you are simply wanting to get an idea about where they are in the continuum. You see, everybody's on a spiritual journey. Some people moving away from God, some people moving towards God. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes that God has put eternity in the hearts of men. So everyone is somewhere on that scale on their spiritual journey. So that second question is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how interested are you in spiritual things? And there's no right or wrong answer. The next question you ask is, do you think there is a heaven and a hell? Now, using the word think is important instead of the word believe, because we're still dealing at the head level or the intellectual level. We're not ready yet to move to the heart. So do you think there's a heaven and a hell? Now, most people will say yes, or yes, I think there's a heaven, I'm not sure about a hell. Again, there's no wrong answer because you're just asking them for their opinion. The next question you ask, and this is number 4, and we're moving from the head to the heart. If you were to die today, where would you go? Wow, it's interesting to watch, even sometimes the body language and facial expressions when I ask this question, because it's really personal, and we're talking about now, today. If you were to die today, where would you go? Most people will say heaven. Sometimes I've had people say hell, and if they do say that, I just say, does that bother you or concern you? And if they say yes, then basically they've given me the opportunity to go ahead and talk to them about the Lord. But most people are going to say if they died today, they'd go to heaven. The next question I then ask them is, what do you think God requires to get into heaven? Now, they're usually going to say good works or something along those lines. To the question, what do you think God requires of you to get into heaven? If they say good works, now this is the final and 6th question that I ask. If good works won't get you into heaven, would you want to know what would? Once again, that question is, if good works won't get you into heaven, would you want to know what would? Now, most people are going to say yes if they're intellectually honest. Now, who could say no to that question? If good works won't get you into heaven, would you want to know what would? If they say no, it's like committing intellectual suicide. So they're almost forced to say yes. And when they do say yes, they in effect have given you permission to now share the gospel with them. And then you can do this in any fashion, whatever you feel most comfortable with. For me, when I ask these questions, it's often when people don't have time to talk further with me. I may ask my waiter toward the end of the meal. Now, they've got work. They don't have time to talk to me in great detail about this. But they've told me, yes, they'd want to know. And so what I do then is pull out a copy of the gospel tract we have, and I give that to them and say, this will have the answer. You can read this when you have time. And feel free to get a hold of me if you want to. Sometimes I'll leave a contact, a name, a phone number, or email address with them. If they do have time to talk, go ahead and share the gospel with them in whatever method you find most effective based on your personality. And I just trust that in using this method, you're going to be able to move into conversations with people about spiritual things where you maybe haven't felt comfortable in the past. And I just thank you so much for listening to this and trust that God is going to use you in a mighty way. God bless you.